You didn't just wake up one day and decide to waste your life, but here you are wondering why every day feels the same, why the noise inside your head never stops, and why nothing truly satisfies you. The truth is brutal. Most people aren't living. They're simply enduring. Here's something you won't hear from your therapist, your boss, or even your friends. That gnawing emptiness inside you. It isn't a mental disorder. It's a signal. A protest from the parts of yourself you locked away to become functional. You're not broken. You're misaligned. And if you keep ignoring this misalignment, life won't punish you with a bang. It will do something much worse. It will quietly numb you into submission. Carl Jung, the pioneer of depth psychology, didn't believe suffering was always pathological. To him, our anxiety, apathy, and depression often weren't symptoms of illness, but symptoms of a life unlived, a spiritual revolt, a call to wake up. In this video, we're not going to tell you to just think positive, chase goals, or distract yourself into oblivion. Instead, we're diving into 7 brutal truths drawn from Jungian psychology that will show you how to stop wasting your life. By the end, you won't just see the world differently, you'll see yourself differently. 1. You are not supposed to be happy all the time. The expectation of constant happiness is one of the most dangerous lies of modern society. We're bombarded with images of perfect lives, curated smiles, and a narrative that suggests if you're not happy, something is wrong with you. But Jung knew that this fixation on happiness was deeply flawed. Your psyche isn't built for permanent pleasure. It's not designed to cruise on highs. It's meant to evolve, and growth doesn't come from comfort. It comes from confrontation. Pain is not always a sign that something's wrong. Sometimes it's a sign that something's waking up. This isn't to glorify suffering, but to reframe it. When life feels meaningless or hollow, it's not because you failed to be happy. It's because your soul is begging for something real, something beyond surface-level satisfaction. A person who chases happiness at all costs will run from anything that feels unpleasant, including the very experiences that are most essential for their transformation. Emotional discomfort is not the enemy. It's the invitation. The moments that feel like breakdowns often precede the breakthroughs, and yet we're taught to medicate, distract, or suppress. But what if you're not supposed to feel good all the time? What if those dark nights are just thresholds, gateways to a deeper, more honest existence? Jung saw meaning as far more important than happiness. Happiness is fleeting, meaning endures, and meaning is often born in the fire, not the sunlight. Here's the twist. The more you chase the illusion of non-stop positivity, the more trapped you become in artificial highs. You begin to fear sadness. You run from boredom. But these states aren't threats. They're signposts. They point to where you're disconnected. In the stillness of your sadness, a deeper wisdom waits. In the lull of dissatisfaction, an insight is trying to rise. Yet we treat these feelings like bugs to squash rather than messages to interpret. That's the tragedy of modern emotional life. Jung believed that integrating our pain is what makes us whole. It's not about erasing negative emotion. It's about honoring it, letting it lead us to what's been abandoned inside, because your soul isn't here to be amused. It's here to be fulfilled. Numbness isn't peace. It's emotional bankruptcy. 2. Medication can silence the message, but not the problem. There's a difference between treating a wound and covering it up. In today's world, we often confuse sedation with solution. When discomfort shows up, the immediate response is to mute it. A prescription, a distraction, a scroll through a glowing screen. But Jung's insights cut deeper. He believed that our psyche communicates through symptoms: depression, anxiety, insomnia. They're not just random malfunctions, they're signals. If you quiet the signal without investigating its source, you don't heal, you drift. Imagine your soul as a fire alarm. It's loud, obnoxious, but it's trying to save your life. Now imagine taping over the alarm to stop the noise instead of putting out the fire. There's nothing wrong with seeking relief. But relief without reflection becomes avoidance, and avoidance creates distance between you and your truth. Our culture rewards this kind of disconnection. You're applauded for showing up at work even when your mind is collapsing. You're praised for being productive even when your spirit is drowning. And the tragedy: most people call that strength. But strength is not silence. Strength is listening, even when the message hurts, even when it tells you that your current life is no longer sustainable. Healing starts with humility, with the courage to admit that maybe your suffering isn't a glitch, it's guidance. Here's what no one tells you. Medication without introspection is a sedative for the soul. It may help you survive, but it won't help you awaken. And awakening is the only true antidote to existential disconnection. Carl Jung didn't demonize medicine, but he did caution against its overuse when used as a shield from truth. When treatment becomes avoidance, you no longer grow. You stagnate. You become a well-dressed shell. So next time you feel the impulse to suppress what hurts, pause. Ask, what is this pain trying to teach me? What truth is knocking? You're not healing, you're hiding. 3. The culture is sick, not just you. If you feel like you don't belong, maybe it's not because you're flawed. Maybe it's because the structure you were raised in was never meant to hold a soul as complex as yours. Jung recognized that a massive part of human suffering isn't internal malfunction, but environmental distortion. From birth, we're immersed in systems that prioritize obedience over creativity, appearance over essence, and conformity over integrity. The problem isn't that people are failing to thrive. It's that we were never taught how to live in alignment with ourselves. We were taught how to perform, how to win approval, how to avoid rejection, but not how to understand what we truly value. Every time you feel like an outsider, ask yourself, are you on the wrong path or just in the wrong environment? Culture often pathologizes what it cannot control. Sensitive becomes weak. Creative becomes impractical. Introspective becomes dysfunctional. But those very traits, sensitivity, creativity, introspection, are the signs of someone still alive inside, someone whose inner compass hasn't been completely hijacked. Our pain isn't always personal. Sometimes it's a sane response to an insane world. This is why Jung emphasized individuation, not adaptation. You were not born to adjust to every dysfunction around you. You were born to remember who you are beneath the noise. The world may offer roles, but your soul seeks meaning. It doesn't want to be useful, it wants to be real. When you contort yourself to fit in, you slowly erase yourself. Jung believed that healing begins with rebellion, not reckless chaos, but a sacred refusal to betray your truth for acceptance. And in a culture built on appearances, choosing essence is a revolutionary act. So no, you're not failing. You're waking up. And everything around you that feels wrong might be your clarity, not your flaw. You're not too sensitive. You're just still human. 4. Anxiety is the soul's alarm bell. What if anxiety wasn't a malfunction to be fixed, but a message trying to be heard? For Jung, the signals we often fear, panic, dread, tightness in the chest, are not simply chemical accidents. They are the psyche's cries for course correction. You don't feel anxious because you're weak. You feel anxious because some part of you knows you're off track. It's your unconscious mind sounding the alarm, trying to steer you back toward alignment. And yet, what do we do with this signal? We numb it, we pathologize it, we drown it in busyness, in substances, in routines. But the soul cannot be silenced forever. The more you push away the signal, the more intense it becomes. This is where the misunderstanding lies. Anxiety isn't always about danger. Often it's about disconnection. It's what arises when your inner truth is being smothered by your outer life. That uneasy feeling when you walk into your workplace. That subtle dread before a social event that doesn't feel right. Those are moments when your deeper self is whispering, "This isn't you." We've been taught to interpret these whispers as irrational, but Jung saw them as sacred. He believed that anxiety, rather than being a nuisance, could serve as a spiritual compass, a signal that something vital is being ignored. When you finally stop running from anxiety and instead ask what it's pointing to, a transformation begins. You start noticing how many of your choices are made out of fear rather than desire. How many of your routines serve survival instead of authenticity. You also begin to realize that your symptoms are not random. They are remarkably consistent. They appear in the same contexts, the same types of relationships, the same patterns. That's no accident. It's a roadmap. But to read that map, you have to stop reacting and start reflecting. You must stop treating anxiety as a wall and start seeing it as a mirror. It reflects the parts of your life where you've abandoned yourself. Healing from anxiety doesn't mean eliminating discomfort. It means building the resilience to face what your discomfort reveals. The moment you start honoring the signal instead of silencing it, anxiety loses its grip. It stops being a monster and becomes a messenger. Your panic is your soul's protest. 5. Individuation is not optional. You can delay your healing, but you can't escape the need for it. Jung believed every individual has a deep, built-in drive to become whole. He called it individuation, a journey into the depths of the self, to reclaim everything fragmented, suppressed, or forgotten. This isn't about self-improvement. It's not about better habits, routines, or productivity. It's about facing the chaos within you, the parts that make you uncomfortable, the sides you hide. Individuation begins when you stop trying to be normal. It starts the moment you recognize that your real task isn't to fit in, but to unfold, to remember, to reclaim. You weren't meant to be a replica of your parents, your culture, or your career. You were meant to become a conscious expression of your soul, and that requires dismantling everything you built just to survive. The early stages of individuation are often disorienting. You might feel like you're breaking down. In truth, you're breaking open. The masks you wear begin to feel heavy. The expectations you once met without question suddenly become intolerable. This isn't regression, it's awakening. To individuate is to confront your own mythology, to ask, what story have I been living? Who wrote it? And what must I rewrite to actually belong to myself? It's in this process that the unconscious becomes your ally. Through dreams, instincts, creative expression, your psyche begins offering you fragments of the real you. At first, it might feel chaotic, but if you listen, a pattern emerges. And with that pattern, a path. One of Jung's most radical insights was this: the goal is not to become perfect, but to become whole. That means integrating the parts you despise as well as the parts you admire. Your fear, your lust, your rage, your envy, all have roles in the drama of your becoming. Individuation isn't comfortable. It requires sacrifices. You may outgrow relationships, you may lose approval, but what you gain is far more valuable. Your own life, finally claimed. And make no mistake, if you don't choose this journey, it will eventually choose you. Through burnout, through collapse, through an ache that refuses to go away. So instead of waiting for the breakdown, begin the breakthrough. Ask, what part of me have I abandoned to belong? What have I betrayed in the name of being accepted? Reclaim it. Not later. Now, you're not lost, you're buried. 6. Your shadow holds the life you repressed. There's a part of you you've never truly met, the part that holds your anger, your raw desire, your chaos, your hunger for more. This is the shadow Jung warned about. It is not evil. It is not the villain of your story. It's the exiled king, the silenced queen, the unacknowledged force of your aliveness. From an early age, we're taught what's acceptable. Be polite, be kind, be quiet. And with every should, we bury something deeper. We push it down to avoid punishment, to earn love, to be safe. But those buried pieces don't vanish. They become the shadow. The irony? What you suppress eventually shapes you. It acts out in your choices, sabotages your goals, seeps into your tone, and lingers in your relationships. What you won't face in yourself, you will recreate outside yourself. The shadow isn't just rage and resentment, it's also brilliance and instinct. It's your unfiltered vitality. It's your potential energy waiting to be reowned. Jung didn't say, destroy the shadow. He said, integrate it. This process is uncomfortable because integrating the shadow requires honesty. It asks you to admit your envy, your manipulations, your judgments, not to shame yourself, but to understand yourself. We spend so much energy trying to look good, sound right, and fit in. But real self-respect begins when you stop curating and start confronting. When you can say, yes, I am capable of that, and now I choose to redirect it. The shadow is not your enemy. It's your energy. Misunderstood, it controls you. Owned, it fuels you. Your creativity, shadow. Your sexual vitality, shadow. Your deepest sense of personal power, shadow. That's why your healing won't be complete until you stop pretending and start integrating. When you meet your shadow consciously, you stop projecting it unconsciously. You stop blaming others for things you haven't claimed in yourself. You begin to take responsibility, not for being perfect, but for being whole. And this is the threshold. On one side, the persona, the mask you wear to survive. On the other, the shadow, the self you abandoned to earn love. Only when they meet can you become real. Shadow work isn't about becoming good. It's about becoming true. Your shadow isn't evil. It's everything you exiled to survive. 7. Meaning is the antidote to numbness. We live in a world drowning in stimulation and starving for meaning. It's not that we don't have enough to do, it's that what we do lacks depth. Jung believed that the root of modern suffering is not pain itself, but the absence of purpose behind it. You wake up, you work, you scroll, you sleep, and beneath it all, something aches. That ache isn't laziness, it's the soul's hunger for direction. When people say they're tired, what they often mean is, I don't know why I'm doing any of this. And that's the difference between burnout and purpose. The same effort that depletes you when done without meaning can energize you when done in alignment. Jung wasn't interested in helping people return to a functional routine. He was interested in helping them become alive. And to be alive, you need more than a checklist. You need a why. Meaning doesn't have to be grandiose. You don't need to save the world. But you do need to feel like your life is a reflection of your truth, that the path you're walking is your own. Without meaning, even pleasure turns hollow, even success feels empty, because nothing external can substitute for the inner sense that your existence matters. We chase dopamine because we've lost direction. We rely on validation because we've lost vision. But that can change, not by adding more stimulation, but by stripping away what's fake. Start by asking, when do I feel most real? What am I doing when I lose track of time? What did I love before the world told me who I should be? Meaning lives in those answers. It's personal. It's quiet. It often lives beneath your pain. That's why avoiding suffering means avoiding the very path to purpose. Pain with purpose becomes fuel. Pain without it becomes poison. If you don't choose what your suffering is for, it will choose for you, and it will feel like chaos. So stop asking how to be happy. Ask instead, what is worth struggling for? Because that answer is where your true life begins. A meaningless life will destroy you quietly. This isn't about rejecting the world. It's about returning to yourself. Every chapter in this video pointed to a simple but terrifying truth. You are not meant to adapt to a sick society. You are meant to individuate within it, to awaken, to live with soul. Jung didn't promise comfort. He promised transformation. And that only begins when you stop performing and start listening. So here's the final insight. You don't need to add more to your life. You need to subtract everything that isn't real. Don't waste another year chasing someone else's dream. Don't wait until your body collapses or your mind goes numb. Start now. Not by fixing yourself, but by finding yourself. Because the greatest tragedy isn't dying, it's never truly living. And if this video hit you hard, send it to someone else who needs to hear it. You might just wake them up too.